Hello everyone, it's Becky from Ivy's Corner here for another little mini Molo tangle. I'm going to show you how to draw a little tangle on this little tile here. It's a 2.5 by 2 inch by 2 inch square. I've decided not to use a bijou tile because I had some watercolour paper, some scraps of it left over, so I cut these little tiles to size. So here we go. I'm going to start off this tangle by just doing some dots and a border, as we do. So a dot in each corner and then just lightly joined together with a line in pencil. The tangle that I'm going to be drawing today is called Fife, and it's a really fun one. I really like it. And Fife doesn't require any kind of string or anything else with the pencil other than we're going to dive straight in with our pen. But what it does require is a sort of a grid. It's sort of a grid tangle, but not with a grid. I'm going to create a grid of dots. So I'll start off by doing my dots in each corner, just restating those. And then I'm going to do a dot in the centre of each one, and a dot in the very centre there of the tile. So we had a dot in the centre of each line and then a dot in the centre of the tile. Now you could make this a lot smaller and you could have, 4 along here, 5 along here, but it would be teeny tiny on a teeny tiny tile. It would look really cool, but I think for the purposes of sort of demonstrating the tangle, I'm going to go quite big. So we have our little grid of dots here. The first thing we do with Fife is to create, we're drawing some seed shapes, so like a seed or like a grain of rice, I suppose, and you're going to draw those in between the dots. So I'll start in the centre to show you what I mean. So here is my first seed shape, and then I'm going to do the same thing here, and then I'm going to join all of the rest of the dots with these seed shape. So you'll notice I've gone off the edge of my line, my pencil line there, which is fine. You don't want them to be a super fat seed, but it doesn't really matter. They don't have to be the same. They can vary. It's no problem. So I've done my vertical ones like this. I'm going to turn my tile and do the same thing. So now I'm drawing on the vertical again, but obviously because my tile has turned. This tangle is kind of similar to bales, where you draw the grid first and then you draw these kind of seed shapes on top of the lines. But obviously because we don't have lines in our dot grid, we don't have that. So it's very similar, but we're going to add some additional bits to it now. So we have our kind of squares of seed shapes, if you will, and then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw more seed shapes, joining from corner to corner of one of these little squares. I've got these 4 sort of squares here and I'm going to join them together. So I'm going to start by doing this one. So I'm going to draw my seed shape from this corner to this corner, and then from this corner to this corner. So you'll see this is mirroring. I'm mirroring this shape here. If you wanted to keep all of your seed shapes going in the same direction, you absolutely could do that. That's totally cool. I'm going to do, so if you imagine this as being one sort of individual square, it's mirroring on each side. Oh, I've done it wrong. Never mind. There are no mistakes. Here we go. So the next thing I'm going to do is then draw my rice shape, but hollybore it behind this one here. I don't think this will notice too much in the final thing, but it's interesting to see how these things work if they don't necessarily go according to plan. So my rice shape and my seed shape is hollyboring behind that central one. If you were being super concerned about the symmetry of your tile or your pattern, then obviously that might not be ideal, but I quite like that it's a little sticky out one in the wrong direction. It does kind of look like it's sticking out strangely, but that's fine. If I had planned ahead, I could have done the same thing on this side and it would have looked a little bit different. But there we go. So you can see here how we've now got these ones that are holly-bore behind their ones that are in front. And that is kind of the basic pattern for Fife. I really like this one. I think it looks really cool, especially when you start to add a little extra detail. So you can, if you want to, leave it like this and then just add some texture and some shading. But I'm going to show you kind of one of the things that I like to do, which is to add some ink into these spaces, these sort of little triangular spaces that hide in between our seed shapes here. And just add some ink because it really does make it kind of pop and look quite cool. So just nice and slowly and gently adding your ink in here. So you have some nice bold background. It does look pretty cool, I think. If you're doing this on a larger tile, you could add some other tangles in there. So if you had a bit more space and you were tangling a little bit larger, you could almost use it as a string and potentially add like some tipple or some striping or I don't know, just some like little texture tangles or something that would look really cool. But here we are, adding in this ink. It does look really effective. There's definitely something about adding bold ink to some of the smaller spaces in your tile that I just really love, because it's only a tiny bit of ink really that we're adding here, but it really adds something special to the pattern. It's just the contrast, I think, like the stark contrast between the whites and the black. Almost there. I'm quite speedy when I do this, but please don't feel you need to rush. You can just take your time, pause the video, and just sort of use this time when you're inking in to sort of enjoy the focus, pulling your brain to what's in front of you and away from anything else that might be on your mind today. There we go. So I've inked my spaces in. There is some you could add hatching and things here, but I think for simplicity's sake, I'm going to just draw in some shading now. So with this one, I'm going to add some shade, some graphite to the centre points where all of my petals meet. And the same anywhere else these rice shapes come together. So in any of the spots where they sort of converge, you can add a little bit of the graphite here. Don't forget to turn your tile rather than moving your hand. There we go. So just a little bit in each of those corners. And then the other thing I'm going to do, because I mean, if you wanted to go ahead and blend that shade in now, then absolutely can. But while I'm here with my pencil, I'm just going to add a little line of shade to the sections where my upper seed shapes cross these ones that I drew behind. There we go. So I'm going to pick up my tortillon now, and then I'm going to start blending in those shades. So I'm going to just all around that centre section blend it in, and then just gently soften where the graphite ends. So nice and gently, just moving it up like so. And then you can just sort of tickle the paper with your tortillon just to gently move that graphite up. And then the same on these corner ones, like so. Don't worry too much about these centre lines, they sort of vanish eventually anyway. Centre graphite lines from our borders. If you really wanted to, you could get a very fine eraser, like a precision eraser, and get rid of them, but I think they look kind of cool. So just blending in those corners. Gently. And then once I've done all of my corner blending, which I've got a few more to go, I will do those little overlapping ones that go through the sort of the centre of my squares. I just think this is such a cool pattern. I really like it. It featured in Project Pack 23, I think it was. And I really liked how it looked. Project Pack 23 was the large format piece of art where we drew sort of illuminated letters, and it looked super effective in kind of harmony, I suppose, with all the other tangles on the tile. So I'm going to go in here and just blend in those little sections where the hollyboard seeds sit below the top ones, and it just drops them down behind those top seeds that we've drawn. And that is your pattern, your Fife pattern. You can't even really notice where I went wrong before. There's no such thing as wrong in Zentangle. It's just an interesting anomaly that adds to the piece of work that you've created. And there you have it. That's Fife.